Proprietary.
Yeah, I want all the goods.
Yeah, right. Thanks for coming. My name is Graham Smith. I am an agent at the office here. I've been at the office for coming up on 7 years, I think it's going to be, and like just yesterday. Prior to that, I worked at a different brokerage for 13 years, so this is my 20th business. And I've worked everything from being a single agent to forming a team in many different parts until we have the current team that we have. And right now we operate in a very traditional Keller Williams way. And that means we have buyer agents, we have seller agents, we have operations folks. And so I still operate in production as a listing agent on the team. And when Jen and I were talking about this, we talked about what would be some valuable information. And what she was hearing from a lot of you is people are saying, what can we do? How can we make our offers better? What can we do for our clients to win with the listing agent? So I thought, okay, well, I'd be happy to share that. That's all I do every day is list the homes other than run the team. So we sell a few, we do pretty well on our transaction sites. We touch a lot of transactions every single month. So I feel like we see a lot of offers. We see a lot of people making offers. We see a lot of good things. We see a lot of mistakes, and I'm happy to share all of those with you. I do have some ideas to share as well, but before we get into any of my own ideas, I'd like to put it out to everybody online in the room. This can be kind of a little bit of a mastermind too. What is it that you have questions about when it comes to listing? What is still a mystery to you when it comes to making an offer in this environment we've been working in, and maybe where you see us going?
I had something happen today. I was going to show a property in Maple Grove for 500, and all of a sudden this morning I had an email that said new price 550.
Wow. Okay. All right.
That's the first for me.
This is an erasable, right?
Yeah.
All right. So changing prices. Okay, we'll come back to that. Or terms. What else? What else is something? I'm sure you can't probably see that on the screen. What else might be something? And anybody online too, you can put it in the chat box if there's any particular questions you have that you hope we cover today.
I have a question for you. So right now in this environment, when there is an outstanding or a possible outstanding assessment, some sellers are wanting to pass that on to the buyer.
Okay. Okay. So
Like say street curb assessment.
let's say passing costs onto buyer. Okay. If we think about this too, in the way of what strategies can we employ when we're making offers to win a listing, when we want to win on behalf of our clients, what are some questions? What are some things you would like to know? Maybe it's a particular strategy, or maybe it's just a general question about how listing agents are handling these things. Does anybody have a question about that? Is there anything you've ever wondered about as you're making the offer? What the heck is going on the other side?
I wonder how the listing agent feels about receiving escalation clauses or pass-fail inspections.
I'm going to break that up into two.
Talk about how you present the offers and what terms you highlight and what terms you maybe put more weight on than others.
Offer sightings.
These are all really good.
How about the preferential order, meaning like, obviously you want them to do everything, but what's more important, like waiving inspection or higher earnest money or what, right? Like, how would you rank them in order?
I'm going to add that to this. All right, great. Anything else? Yes.
Not me, but I see a couple things in the chat.
Yeah. Wake up.
Okay, so it says, I always raise my list price after I get 4 offers to separate the curious.
I'm sorry, what was that?
On the screen right there.
Oh, I can't read. I'm a realtor.
I always raise my list price after I get 4 offers to separate the curious and the serious. Appraisal gap coverage.
Who wrote that?
I'm not sure I followed that.
about the changing terms of.
Yeah, okay.
And then any idea about making offers with buyers who don't have a ton of cash on hand,
Sure.
lower down payment, can't.
All right. These are great.
Let's see if anybody said it already, but when the sellers want to move, closing date, is that on there?
Awesome. Let's put it on there. Good ad.
This may be something a little too broad, but as somebody who is brand new, and this was talked about briefly in one of the meetings recently, but what does stand out to you in an offer? Like, what is an offer that I can write that you will take notice of? What
All
are
right.
you looking for?
All right. I think all of these are fantastic and we're going to cover them all in 50 minutes or less. We are. I'm serious. I'm not even kidding. I feel though that before we even start to break these down, this all begs the question of providing a little bit more context about, we're going to talk today about how do you win with a listing agent, but this isn't really about listing agent and buyer agents. This is how do you win a transaction in any market? Because fast forward, let's go into the future 3-4 years from now. We might be teaching this class of how do you win with the buyer's agent? And all the listing agents in suits will be like, that's very interesting. I really respect these buyer agents. Yeah. Like to take them out for coffee and thank them for coming to see my listing that nobody wants to see. It's been an environment where we didn't have to bring people into the home. Just listing the home brought people to us. And a lot of times I bet you it feels, if you're a buyer agent or working with buyers, I bet you it feels like you've been passed over. I bet you it feels like you are not taken seriously. I bet you it feels like your clients are not taken seriously. And I'm sure there's somebody in this room who slammed the phone down, said all sorts of profane words about that listing agent and how they're doing things wrong. And I will tell you that on this side, we are also full of anxiety. On this side, we are also trying to navigate all of the conversations and give the best counsel to our client, and you're trying to do the same. Some of us are playing a certain role on the phone with you, or in email or in text with you, and we're falling apart when we hang up the phone. When we receive offers that are above list price on day one, and we have 30 showings coming up over the next 24 hours, we are all fearful of what if none of those bring another offer and this one goes away? Because any of us that have been in the business have had to have that conversation with the client before. We've had that happen. When we are getting conversations and we're getting phone calls, you ask what stands out, or somebody asks what stands out. That's an ever-changing target. It stands out until it becomes the norm, and then it doesn't stand out anymore. Years ago, letters used to stand out. The letter was a standout. Nobody was doing the letter 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or very few people. It was unique, it was new. Now it's standby, it's average. What do you think the number one question I get when agents call me about an offer before they make it? What do you think every single person leads with?
We have multiple offers.
You have multiple offers is a great question. And you're actually probably right. Okay. But this
Just a second.
My buyers are so excited.
what's the closing date? What closing date would your client like? What closing date would your client like? And I usually say it's flexible. And I go, oh, okay. And then that's it. And most of the people end the conversation right there, believe it or not. Go ahead.
It just seems like today, the best, well, you should be asking, do you have an offer?
There you go. Perfect.
Do you have one?
That's right. Here's the other thing about that too. Even if I don't have an offer in hand, what if I have 5 different people that said they're going to write offers? What's the probability that all 5 of those are going to walk away? All right. What if I have 25 showings set up over the next 5, or 2 days? I have these 5 people saying they're going to write offers, and we're leading into the weekend where we have 2 open houses. We've got a pretty strong position to take that risk. Now, that doesn't mean take the risk. Don't misunderstand this. It doesn't mean take the risk and say we have an offer. That doesn't mean take the risk and lie and mislead. It means that we have a lot of interest in this house and the sellers are prepared to wait until the end of the weekend. Okay, so from the perspective of writing the offer, it would seem we've put a very good offer on the table. We've given you exactly what you wanted or even more. Why don't you show us the dignity of addressing our offer? But from our perspective, that's not the case at all. We have an overwhelming tidal wave of opportunity, and our sellers have chose to wait. And it's our job to make that decision and get that counsel. So to that point, and I think we're going to touch on all of these, I've kind of got 5 different things I've been thinking about over the last few weeks on what to share in this meeting. And I think kind of covers all of this. And it really is about how do you win with a listing agent. And I would say that the number one thing that you can do, and this isn't necessarily like do number 1 and then stop. It really is all 5. But the number one thing, none of it else is going to matter until you get right with yourself. And what I mean by that is get right with yourself as a realtor, get right with yourself as a salesperson, get right with yourself as a counselor, get right with yourself as a therapist. The chance, I don't even know how many transactions I've closed in my career. I can count on maybe 2 where the other side was doing something illegal or nefarious. But I have countless times where I assumed they were. I have countless times I assumed they were trying to take advantage of the situation, or they were trying to take advantage of me and my client, and I got angry. And then when I understood it from their perspective, I said, oh, that makes sense. I get it why they did that. Wish I didn't make that one. I don't make those kind of phone calls. But really, that's the case. It's very easy to get angry at the other side. Get right with yourself that this business is a collaboration between both sides, bringing a transaction together. The best negotiations will be give and take. There'll be a little bit of give, maybe a lot. There'll be a lot of give, maybe some take if you're on the buy side, hopefully. Get to take the keys at the closing, I guess. But reality is we're in a market that heavily supports sellers, has been for the last couple of years. So that leads into number 2, which is understand what the playing field is. Understand what's going on. But before we get into that, this get right with yourself thing, I can't tell you how important this is. Get right with yourself also means continuously grow and learn this business. I had somebody recently tell me that they had learned everything there was to learn in the business, right? And they were going to move on to a different, opportunity. And I thought, that's amazing. I hope you could teach me some things because I haven't learned everything. I'm never going to know everything in this business. This business is forever changing. The minute we think we're better than somebody else, the minute we believe we've learned it all, that's the end of our career. That's the beginning of the end. This is a constantly changing business, shifting business. Quite frankly, the vast majority of you, if you're new, anybody in the room that's new, you do have an edge on a lot of us that have been in the business. There's edges we have on you, but you have edges. There's going to be a passion and grit and a want that's greater than somebody that has a book of business. And you're going to want to be paying attention to what's going on. You're going to be looking for other opportunities. Get right with yourself on this. Understand that you are a professional salesperson in an industry that pays us an incredible amount of money for a transaction and gives us the opportunity that I'm so grateful for to help sellers and buyers with this transaction. Get right with that, right? It's hard. It's very hard, but get right with it. And I'm not batting 1,000 on that, but I've taught other classes about, breaking down and getting angry and breaking phones, and yelling at people and having road rage incidents. And, so I'm okay. I'm getting better, but get right with yourself. Maybe it's workout, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's other things you need to do. You need to have that right mindset coming into this. If you have a poor mindset going into it, you're going to exude that on the phone. The listing agent's going to be, whoa, easy. If you're trying to tell me what's what, it's not a good way for us to start the conversation. So,
And your clients too, right? You create anxiety in your clients.
absolutely. Yep. Understanding what the playing field is number 2. And what I mean by that is a lot of you have asked about down payments. You've asked about closing dates. You've asked about pass-fail inspections. This right now in this moment, it seems like we are shifting into a different situation. However, the situation and so I won't really get into that too much because that's speculative. But what we've seen over the last 18 months has been a remarkable seller's market. If you're in competition with 10 offers and 8 of those 10 offers have 20% down or more conventional, and you're a 3.5% down FHA, what's the chances that offer is getting accepted? Slim, extremely slim. Somebody asked, what can we do with down payment and no gap coverage? Hope that other offers don't have both of those. That's it. If the offers are the same and one is 20% down with $35,000 of gap coverage, and this one's 5% down conventional with none, this one's going to win. There's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing your client can do about that. It's just the way it is. Now, right now, for the moment, we're shifting, maybe something else will happen. But for the moment, that's the situation. Learn what the playing field is. Ask questions like the closing date. Still, don't stop asking that. Understand what terms the other side might want. That could be beneficial. Because guess what? Some of those terms your client might not care about at all. If I give it to them, give it to them, give it to them, give it to them. Give them the terms that they're asking for. And fight for the terms that your client wants. When you learn what the playing field is, you can operate in that. When people are coming forward with offers that have inspection contingencies, very little money down, completely refundable earnest money, knowing that we have 10, 15 offers on the table, that might not be the most competitive offer. Now, if your client is uncomfortable with any single one of those, that is exactly the offer you need to make. Is there a conversation, though, you can have with your client about, can we be flexible on any of these? Can we do better on this in any fashion, right? So understand what the playing field is. The playing field will change. It will. I was reading an article yesterday, I think it was in Inman actually, that talked about the idea that we might see by the end of the year 7% interest rate, and by the end of 2023, 9%. And that was coming from the Fed. 9%. How many people in this room have ever sold a house at 9%? I haven't. One. That was a trick. I just wanted to. No, 9. Could you imagine, right? How is everybody going to sell homes? Now, same article said, because of the overwhelming amount of buyers and the overwhelming, not overwhelming, lack of, no inventory on the selling side, they still see prices holding. They still see prices holding. Think about this. In 2009, there were 18 houses on the market for every buyer. What happened to prices in 2009? Went down. What do you think it was? Wish Tim was here.
I don't.
How many buyers per house was it leading into this year? Was it about 12, 15? It was something like that. 12 or 15 buyers per house for sale. Even if we cut 2/3 of those out, there's still 3, 4, 5 buyers per house. Just saying, 9% interest rates might make folks with down payments that are very low and debt to income very high renters for the next 2 or 3 years. There's still going to be buyers. That's still going to be opportunities for us to represent folks. It's still going to be opportunities for us to help folks that are on that cusp figure out ways to save up, build up credit, do other things. That playing field will be different than this playing field. It's all speculative as to where that's going to go. But understand what playing field you're in. Come to this meeting every Wednesday. Listen to what the leadership is talking about. Find out what's going on. Maybe subscribe to places like Inman or other industry standard publications that are going to talk about this on a regular basis. Surround yourself with another group of agents that are doing business. Find out what they're saying. Figure it out. So you're getting right with yourself. You're figuring out what the playing field is. You mentioned it about talking to your client a little bit and being honest with your client. That is number 3 is you need to win with your client. For any of us that are asking our clients to offer tens of thousands of dollars above the asking price. And by the way, maybe we should waive the inspection. And by the way, maybe you should pay more money than the bank thinks it's worth and cover that difference with cash. Oh, and by the way, you should probably make all of your earnest money non-refundable. What else could we possibly ask, right? Yeah, sure, seller get it for free too.
Yes,
For free. Yeah. You'll pay the mortgage, but they'll live there for free.
Yeah.
We've asked buyers to do everything under the sun to be able to win these offers. Your buyers have to have complete and utter trust in you to do any of that. You need to win with your buyers. How do you win with buyers? How do you win with clients in general? What would be some ways you could win with clients? How do you think, what's the most honest way? Right up out of the gate.
Sure they have the data.
Giving them the data. When they have the data, again, not just your data, but the data that we take from Minnesota Association of Realtors, Minneapolis Area Association, National Association, other, becoming proficient in talking about data might build their confidence in you, correct? Right. Don't you think that's kind of part of our job? Right? If your client doesn't have faith that you know what you're talking about, you don't know what the playing field is, and you're stumbling, bumbling, we've already broke all first 3 rules, what is the chances you're going to win with the listing agent? This will be a very short-lived career for you. This is not, it's not how you do it, right? So becoming proficient in that. I didn't just show up in real estate 20 years ago knowing anything about this. In fact, I knew nothing about it. I was literally bartending before I took this job. I had some management. I was a bartender. But yeah, I didn't know anything about this. It's been a lifetime of learning this. Now, it didn't take me a lifetime to learn it either. We have these publications. This information is put out all the time. InfoSparks, other things. We don't have to be the one that's disseminating it. We can say, hey, look here, I read this. What do you think of that?
Graham, if you're a new agent, or let's say 3 years from now and the market has shifted, how long do you think it would take somebody to get up to speed on the current market as an agent?
What does that mean, up to speed?
Be proficient enough to have a conversation that wins over another agent they're in competition with.
I don't think that would take long at all. If you're just winning the business, if you're looking to set up a buyer consultation or a listing appointment and win the business, I think if you're surrounding yourself with people on a weekly basis, you're in an accountability group, you're doing these things where you're learning from other people, you're talking a couple months before you're going to start going on appointments and winning appointments. Becoming an expert, this takes years. It takes decades. It takes a lifetime. The beautiful thing about this business is that each individual transaction, let's be honest, they each pay a good wage. They do. Individually, as a standalone, they pay a good wage. You can learn this business and earn a living at the same time. I hear it all the time from people that, have been in the business for a long time, like, oh, that young person needs to earn their stripes. I hear that all the time. And really, it's not about earning. It's really about learning. This is an opportunity that I know Keller talks about it, but I don't know that our industry talks about it enough. That this is an opportunity when you surround yourself with the brokers that you like the best, the people that you like the best, you're taking an opportunity to learn. This is almost like an apprenticeship when you start. And you're leading on other people that have been in it for a long time and have reached other designations. They're sharing their information with you. The beautiful thing is when you're able to sign a buyer, when you're able to sign a listing, you can actually make a living doing that too, while you learn and build your business. So to your question, to back up there, I mean, if you're consistently pouring into it, I would go back and ask any of the productivity coaches on the folks that really pour in and take everything that they're taught. How long is it before they're seeing closed transactions? And I would say 90 days is probably the average for the ones that are producing. For the average agent, it's probably 6 to 8 months. For folks that aren't succeeding at all, it's longer. And that also doesn't mean that folks that didn't succeed in the first year are unsuccessful. I've seen people before that went broke for 2 years and then all of a sudden it clicked. And they're just crushing it. So no, there's no, mandatory minimum you have to do in the beginning to be successful. But I think all of us have a mandatory minimum we need to do over a certain period of time before we're kicked out of our homes. So you can't do that forever. So that idea is, just to reiterate on those first three, you've got to get right with yourself. You've got to be in the right mindset, and you have to be a student of this industry so that you're continuously learning and honing your skills. I can't tell you how many times I would go on buyer appointments or seller appointments and not get the appointment. And I would go back home and I would reiterate, I would write down, okay, what did I say? What did I do? What could I have done differently in this situation? And I didn't have an accountability partner or a mentor showing me what were objection handlers, things like that at the time. It was basically like, here's your cubicle, here's your phone, you are on your own, good luck. And I was just like, all right, what do I do now? And I went out there and just tried to make it work. But I would sit down and I would look at that. I would go back over my documents in the mirror. I would read to myself in the mirror and be like, oh my gosh, I look terrible. I need to do that again. And I would do that. And some people, I just want to back up here. Some people that don't know me at all, or didn't know me back before this, there's only one person in this room that ever knew me back before this in a different capacity. But some people see a version of me that is the version that I'm allowed to be seen as a professional. And they think, oh, that was easy for you. You can speak in front of a class. You could do all of this. You probably had a big book of business. I'm going to pass this around, but I want it back, and nobody's allowed to take a picture of it. This is my first real estate picture ever. No, it's not even a business card. This is my first real estate business picture ever. That's me. That's the guy that was trying to sign deals. That's the guy that was asking, why are you laughing so much? That's the guy that was asking people to trust them. That's me. That's really me.
This is my favorite. This is
Yeah, well, you know, I was auditioning for NSYNC back then. That was not a person that walked in.
Camera, you have to be here.
Yeah, you had to come. That's the guy that got into this business that didn't know anything about this business. But I tell you what I did have. I did have just an incredible desire to win in this. I had an incredible desire for this to work. I didn't want to give up. I was willing to take a lot of beatings. I was willing to fail. You just took a picture.
Did you say that a little loud?
I didn't say that. It's funny. It is funny. It's funny.
People on the camera want to see.
I don't know how we can make it. I'm on the camera, you, but it's funny. I know. Most people that see that, they're like, that's not. I know. It's funny. I was 27 years old in that picture.
That's not the worst.
It's not the
No,
worst.
it's not.
I know. But what I'm saying was, I didn't show up. I didn't own a suit. You know, like I didn't show up ready to go to work. I mean, I showed up ready to go to work, but I didn't know how to do this.
Yeah.
I wasn't somebody that was coming into this business with a fancy car and a whole book of people I knew that were ready to buy and sell real estate. That's not it at all. I knew bartenders, I knew servers, and I knew some of my friends from college. That's all I knew. And so that's all I sold to. What I'm getting at, the reason I even share that is that, for one, there's obviously no mandatory minimum requirement to get into this business. But two, everything that I'm sharing with you are things that I've learned over this time doing. We closed about 160 transactions last year. We run about a 35 to 40% profit margin on the gross. That's the second year in a row that we closed about that amount. And our target, right now we're tracking to close over 200 a year. We're working with a small group of people and we're looking to bring more on because we do have goals to expand this into a 500 and a larger transaction per year organization. Those were not numbers that I would ever consider back then. Really, my long-term goal is, can I figure out a way to close 3 to 5 homes a month? Is that even possible? I didn't even know if it was possible. There was nobody in my office even doing that kind of business at that time. To get back to all of this though, that was the guy that would look in the mirror and read the contracts over and over and see how I looked as I was presenting them to people. That was the person that sat down and went over my notes every night and wondered, what could I have done differently? Make notes for objection handlers. Next time I'm going to say this if they say that. And I would copy all of that and I would do all of that. This was the guy that would literally drive around in his car and it was a piece of crap. I would drive around in my car and I would talk to myself out loud on script playing with myself about how am I going to give this presentation today. This was before Bluetooth. Everybody was like, what the hell's that guy doing? I just be sitting there talking and talking and talking to myself, running through this. That's how you get right with yourself. That's how you get passionate about this business. Prove that you really want to be successful in this business. Folks that just want to be average in the business, I can see through that right away as I receive the offers. You know where those offers come in? They come into my inbox without a phone call, without a text, without anything else. They just show up as an offer. That's the person who's striving to be average. That's the person who'll be a part of the 80% that won't be in this business in 5 years. Because the real fact is that 80% of the people that get into this business are out within the first 5 years they got in. That's an incredible failure rate. The folks that are like, I'm not really a salesperson. Well, good luck to you on that. Good luck to you on that. Getting right with yourself is also getting right about being a salesperson. Look, I don't sell houses. The houses sell themselves. But I am selling myself and my team. I am selling why you should be working with me. And anybody that thinks that sales aren't happening in your conversations, it's still happening in every one of your conversations. It's you selling them on why they should work for you or them selling you why they shouldn't. A sale is going to happen. You have to get really right with that and understand that there is does anybody, let me ask this, maybe everybody's like me in the room and loves to be a salesperson, but does anybody kind of feel a little creepy and weird about being a salesperson? A little bit? Right,
More.
exactly. There's more. Not anymore, not after today, right?
Months and months.
Look, I didn't make this up what I'm about to share with you. I heard it from somebody else. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what business you're in. The sales department is the only department in the company that brings money in. Everything else is a direct draw to the bottom line. everything. And quite honestly, everybody else works to serve the sales department. Sorry, guys. All the leadership's here. They work for us, to serve us. That doesn't mean we have to treat them like crap. It doesn't mean there's a totem pole of a hierarchy. I'm just saying, though, that everybody, even the attorneys, think about that. The attorneys are there to make sure the salespeople don't go to jail. Because most of us are kind of gorillas and we'll do stupid things and say stupid things. But the reality is that the sales department is the one bringing in the money. Have you guys ever had a client say to you, you just wanted a commission? Do you ever hear that? Like, oh, you just wanted a commission. Or you've never heard that.
Nobody said
Do
that
more
to me.
deals. No, I'm just saying, people will say that about sales folks sometimes. They will say, you're just after a commission. Well, that's how I get paid. I like to get paid. I like to get paid for my work. I like to feed my family. Could you imagine if somebody went to work on a W-2 job and their boss was like, you just show up here so you can get a check every 2 weeks? How much of a jerk that person would be? My point in sharing all of that is get right about what this is. We've been given an incredible honor to be part of the front-facing part of this corporation or any corporation brokerage you're with. We're part of the only division that brings in money. Everybody else is a direct cost. And we've been given the honor to work with these clients, these sellers, and these buyers to help them in this transaction that we know that we've been doing this. We know this is the biggest transaction that we're going to make and the most emotional one. This is an honor. Get right with that. Be proud of that. Because when you're proud of it, you might have a better opportunity to want to really pour in and drill down and become better at it. Because I'll tell you the folks that are better at it and the folks that win with me in these multiple bidding situations, it's the ones that are asking the questions around that. Somebody asked about escalation clauses. Are you interested in escalation clauses? Will they be presented? My clients wanted to write a letter. We're just curious if that would be received well or not received well. Now, how many offers do you have on the property? Are you comfortable sharing that with me? Is there anything else about the offers you can tell me or you're comfortable telling me today? We're going to get the offer in, okay? We're going to present the offer. If there's any questions about the offer, let me know. And by the way, this conversation is happening over the phone. That conversation cannot be as meaningful in an email or a text. It just can't, period.
You think that's true across the board?
Absolutely, when it comes to making the offer. Doesn't mean that you're not sending an email. Doesn't mean that you're not reiterating a lot of those terms in the email. Doesn't mean you're not texting some of the conversation. But if you want to make a personal connection with that individual that doesn't know you, that's the key. That doesn't know you, phone calls where it's at. It really is. So once you know what the rules of the playing field are, now go play by them. If the listing agent just told you it's going to take X, Y, and Z to get it done, guess how you win? Do X, Y, and Z, not Q, R, and S. And you have to figure out if you trust that the listing agent is telling you the truth or if they're just telling you what they want in the offer. I can't even speak to that because it's up to each individual, right? What I will say is this, that everybody should be operating in an honest manner. As part of our code of ethics. Everybody should be telling the truth. Telling the truth does not mean telling you all the seller's motivation. Telling the truth does not mean telling you everything they possibly know. It just means they're answering your questions truthfully. Do you have other offers on the home? Yes. How many? 1. That's true. That's truthful. 3. That's truthful. If they're telling you 7 and they have 1 and they were hoping for 6 more, that's not true. Don't be that agent. There's no reason to do that. Somebody's going to get caught for that. That could be the last day you work here. You need to find out what the playing field is, and that's rule number 4, play by the rules. You're not going to win with the listing agent if you're in competition. And again, this is all about being in competition. If it's a one-on-one conversation, all of this changes.
How many buyer's agents actually ask you what it would take to win?
Not many. Not many. Few do, but a few do. Yep.
Do you tell them exactly what it would take?
No, not all the time, because there could be a dual agency situation in place that I can't disclose other terms. I could be negotiating to the detriment of the other side. It could be another one of you in the office that has the offer in, as well as 7 other people that have nothing to do with us. And then this other person that is asking for terms. I'm not going to do anything in that situation that negotiate to the detriment of the dual agency offer. I can't share that with you. I'll just tell you that it's going to have to be strong. We have 6 other very, very strong offers I'm looking at. That would be an answer I would typically give.
How do you communicate that to your seller if it's a similar offer, but one is calling and one isn't? Like it
What
maybe
is what? Oh, yeah, yeah,
one maybe a
right.
little bit better, but not like notably so. And then how are you competing?
It's a great question. So when we present the offers, and when I present the offers to my client, I can't speak for everybody. When I present the offers to my client, I put all the offers into a hierarchy of top to bottom price to lowest, along with all their other terms. I ask the sellers if they're interested in looking at letters before we present, and if they say no, I don't share them. If they say yes, I share them. If they ask me, do I have an opinion? I say no. I'll be honest with you. I just tell them I don't read the letters. And that's the truth. I don't read the letters. I don't ever.
Why don't you read them?
I don't want to be influenced by the letter. I just don't. I don't want to be influenced by that letter, good or bad. That has nothing to do with the offer. Now, if it's a one offer situation, I'll give you one scenario outside of this. If it's a one offer situation, I used to go deep diving on social media on people. Because I used to find sometimes they'd be like, oh my God, we found our dream home. And they take pictures in front of it. My sign was in the picture. I'm like, oh my God. And their offer's 10 grand below this. And we're going to have to change that. They made an offer and then, yeah, check that out.
Tell your clients not to do that. So seriously, I tell my clients all the time, do not ever, don't tell people we just made an offer on a dream home.
We had a situation,
You can't do that.
right, we had a situation where a buyer of ours, years ago, I was representing the buyer. They were in the process of making an offer on a home in Apple Valley. And they did an online deep dive and they found out that those clients were on a show, or no, they weren't on a show. They were on a show. That was it. They were on an HGTV show about fixing up a bathroom on the second level. And then they had their own video blog they put online about how the plumbing caved in the ceiling and fell through into the dining room, ruined all the flooring in the dining room, ruined the walls, ruined the ceiling, and showed all the problems they had fixing it. And it was a video blog that they found online, yet none of that was in the seller's property. So our clients rescinded their offer.
Did you tell them?
I don't remember. It was a long time ago. Yeah. Yeah. So be careful what we're putting online. Be careful what your clients are putting on. But to the point again about how do we talk about that, when it comes down to it, we've got the offers. And I don't say to them, this is the best offer. I say, here's the terms. This one has the highest terms here. This one has financing here. This is why that might be important. This is why that might be important. What do you think? Often they'll come back and ask me what I think. What's your opinion? And I'll say, well, based on my experience, this, that, or the other thing could happen. I'm not getting tied to the outcome. I'm telling you that. I don't get tied to the outcome in these conversations. I'm dancing around that. But I am pushing towards, 2 or 3 top offers. I will share that. The agent for this offer here has been remarkably good. They've been passionate. They've been upfront. They've been checking in on me all the time. They're professional. This is a person I believe will get us. I absolutely say that. And that's the 5th thing. That's the 5th thing in this. The fortune is in the follow-up. You can be the agent that's super annoying when you're calling, or you can be the agent that's super proactive when you're calling. It's up to you and how you carry yourself, right? You might want to practice your scripts on that. I just, you know what? I'm just doing the right thing. I'm just working on behalf of my client. They love the house so much. I wanted to prove to you that we are dedicated to getting this. When you accept our offer, you're getting a partner with me. I'm not going to be an adversary. I'm here to partner up and make this all the way to closing. Now, if you're offering 20 grand below the top, your communication won't matter. But at least you tried. I mean, come on, let's be honest. It's true, right? But at least you did the best you possibly could. And you can go to bed that night knowing I did everything I possibly could. We'll get the next one. Totally fair. But that's the kind of communication that I see. And I look at all of this stuff, and when we're close, I'll tell you what, we had an offer accepted a few weeks back on a property. It was a VA buyer, right? And they had a short window of an inspection. We had an offer that was a 20% down conventional that also had a short window of an inspection. And because of the communication from that agent, and that agent wasn't from this company, it was a different company. Because of that communication from start to finish, they were the first offer in. They stuck with us the whole way. They upped their offer when the multiple bids happened. They tried to shut it down once. That's fair. I don't have a problem with that. Didn't work. It wasn't going to work. We had a bunch of offers, but they stepped up to the plate. They had the best. They were tied for the best offer, VA versus conventional. My clients took the VA. They're like, that's a great offer. We love it. We love the fact that it's a VA offer. We love the fact that it's a military person. And quite honestly, we trust your opinion that this agent's going to get it all the way to closing. So things like that are gonna go a long way. You could say things like, you could get super adversarial, but that's probably, this is not the playing field for that. Now, I will say this. How many people have talked to an agent and the agent said, now hold on a second, I just want you to know, my client said they are not interested in accepting escalation clause. Have you ever heard that before? How many clients have ever led with, I'd hire you, but you better know, I'm not gonna accept any escalation clause. That conversation has never happened. That's the agent talking, right? Or, my client said they'd be interested in your offer, but you're gonna have to put an underwriting. May 26th. The client's don't know what this is. That's the agent talking. Now, you could choose to say, is that you talking or is that your client talking? This is not the playing field for that.
But what if the agent already has had those conversations with their seller?
I agree. Yeah, and I'm not saying I don't say those things too. I'm just saying if the conversation is different, if the playing field is different, if what I'm talking about that we might be shifting into actually comes to fruition, maybe some of the power will shift back into the buyer agents. And that might be an opportunity to say, I can totally understand that you don't want to take an escalation. I get it. Let me ask you this though. I found with this client, they're going to make their best offer if they're allowed to do it. Would you consider going back to the client and asking if they can consider taking an escalation clause or at least looking at it? Is that fair? If they're like, no, absolutely not. Okay, fine. You figure it out. In this market, when I've got 10 other offers to deal with, I'm not having those conversations with somebody. Now, if your offer is the best, now we might have another conversation. Okay? I personally feel that there's been a lot of pushiness on behalf of the listing agents towards the buyer's agents, and somebody's going to get caught on the bag. It's happened so far to work for the listing agents, but I know somebody's going to push and push and push, and that buyer's going to walk away, and that's going to be the day the market shifts. And then the next offer is going to be $25,000 below it, because I've seen it happen. We had a client this past week. They lost out a few weeks ago. Get an offer, and that offer came back to the market because that buyer was afraid of what was going on and defaulted, left their earnest money on the table. Our clients secured it for $50,000 less than the previous offer they made 3 weeks prior. Somebody's gonna get caught off the bag. So I don't want to be that person having those conversations, because I had those conversations in 2009 and 10 and 11 and 12, and it sucked. It was terrible. Trust me. I know it stinks to be a buyer agent right now. I know it can be hard. But when you're sitting across the table and you're showing them the net sheet, and you're like, so you're going to have to bring $45,000 to the closing. And oh yeah, my commission's $22,000. Yeah. Guess where they're going first? It's here. And they want you to make up a lot of that 45 grand. That's a very hard conversation. We'll probably be back there someday. There'll be people that fall into that situation. I don't want to get caught holding that bag. So I'm letting my clients, you ask what I do and how I put it out there. I put it out there in a hierarchy. I share all the offers with them. I go over the main terms. We talk about all these things. If you're the only offer on the table and you've given us a pass-fail inspection, that's a great offer. If you're competing with 5 other offers and somebody waived inspection, that's not a great offer anymore. I love escalation clauses personally. I think most agents, and if there's listing agents listening, I think most listing agents don't like escalation clauses because they're afraid to tell their client that somebody was willing to offer more money than we're going to have to sell it for. And I say, you know what, toughen up. That's an easy conversation. If you don't know how to have it, I have a script practice. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Passing costs on to the buyer. And I'm serious. Come on. Passing costs on to the buyer. If we can do it, why wouldn't we? Period. Sometimes, trust me, sometimes we're like, yeah, this is what they'll take. And you're like, I can't believe they said yes. All right, we got everything. You don't know, but we're certainly going to try it. I'll tell you what, though, if that passing of cost is an assessment for $3,000 and somebody told you you're in competition with 7 other offers, and my client said they'll take your offer right now, but your client has to take that assessment. You think your client's going to want to do that? Well, we need to ask them. And if they do, that's a done deal. Were they gambling? Sure. Are we gambling to call their bluff? Yep. Might they be holding the right cards and we might lose? Absolutely.
From a financing perspective, that would be better because you don't raise the purchase price as much.
There you go.
You don't.
Perfect.
You don't run into appraisal issues as much, right? So
Perfect.
and they typically can be finance of the county?
That's right. I'll tell you this, sight unseen offers make me quite nervous. Because anybody that's been in a conflict between a buyer and seller that is getting to the default territory understands that very few people are ever going to take that to court and go the whole way. And even if they do, that's not going to help us any. Probably not going to help them either, but that's up to them. Sight unseen offers get me a little bit worried. I kind of want to see a lot of other really heavy-handed terms in there about your earnest money. That it's not going to come back like to the buyer. And but some of these we have to. Some people are buying FaceTime and other things out of town. Sure, we're going to do it. Again, though, if yours was the sight unseen and somebody else had been in it 3 times with all 5 generations of their family over the last 24 hours, and you guys have the same offer, that might play into the decision. I'm telling you, we're going to talk about it. Klein and I are going to talk about it. These folks haven't seen it. Their sister Kate. The other folks, they brought everybody. What do you want to do? So maybe, just maybe, you want to consider not telling the listing agent this is a sight unseen offer.
Well, what about in coming soon? I think a lot of this is probably them coming in during the coming
Got it.
soon. I just got notified that my property is coming on tomorrow.
Yeah.
We have our we have our showing scheduled on Saturday, and I was told we have 2 sight unseen offers. This was 2 days ago. We're probably going to call for highest and best by Friday.
Unseen.
These 2 were sight unseen, and they're both coming through with their inspectors on Friday so that they can remove.
And it's coming soon?
It's coming soon
So
right
what are
now.
they going to do about the status on Friday?
It's going active because it's supposed to go active.
Right.
Right.
That's my question.
But so they're like calling due. I mean, I'm just saying that they're limiting the window for essentially just Friday for showings.
So-
And really what they're doing is just allowing these 2 people to remove their inspection.
Again, this kind of falls into that category of, we're not really privy to all the information on the other side. So
No.
we are making some assumptions. They sound like a total douche, but no, I'm just kidding. We should call them up together. Yeah. What are you doing? The seller might have something going on in their personal life that this makes the best, this is the best situation. I would say though, if it were me, and assuming that the sellers were going to allow people to come in on Friday, I would at least try to encourage the sellers, can you just get away for Friday? And can we have 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. to show the house to everybody? I mean, if we're calling for highest best anyway, why don't we just call for everybody? I probably would try to do that. But maybe the seller doesn't want to do that, and then that's up to them. Yeah, I mean, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. Some battles can't be won. I mean, accept that too. That's rule number 6. Didn't have 6, but now we have 6. Yeah, some battles can't be won or they're not worth winning. Because there's an incredible cost. Changing terms, I'm not really sure I followed the question. Stanton left. Oh, that was yours.
Yeah, they raised the price today.
And when did it go live? It was coming,
It went live yesterday.
and so they must have gotten some feedback that they believe now that
But they
they,
had a lot of showing.
Sure. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's a great idea. I don't think changing prices upwards is ever a great idea under any circumstances unless you made a mistake. Unless the front desk uploaded something incorrectly. That would happen. Not anymore anyway, right? That's a cheat code.
Another question. I thought there was kind of some not such a good idea to bring an inspector in through a showing before you write an offer. Can you do that without the seller knowing that you're bringing in an inspector?
I mean, Claire, that's a question for you.
I mean, the board has said, if you're scheduling a showing and bringing in an inspector, that is not a showing, that's an inspection. So you should be requesting an inspection. You should be getting approval from the listing agent and the seller that is okay to bring an inspector in. Because during showings, we might turn on the faucet, but we're not gonna open up the attic and do all these things that an inspector might do.
Well, and also if you're allowing overlapping showings and other buyers are coming in and seeing the inspector, like, what the hell's going on? Did they sell the house? Maybe it's not available anymore. Yeah, when people have asked me for that, we've often said no. However, there have been some instances where we said yes, and it's because they were able to limit it to a 30-minute window. Yeah. Yep. And in those cases, we said yes, and we allowed it to just be them there for the 30 minutes. Yep. So again, this is not the end all be all list. My 5 points aren't the end all be all 5 points. It works for me. It might not work for you. Take what you like, leave the rest. But if you took anything from today, I would say that the best thing you can possibly do is continue to pour into yourselves, continue to better yourselves in this business, continue to become more of a professional, because as we get further into this business, it's only going to get more competitive. It's only going to get more competitive. And I was talking to somebody just the other day, and they were saying, wow, it must have been really tough to sell houses in 2009 and 10 and 11. And it was really tough. Yeah, I'll tell you, I mean, I had two different sellers between 2008-ish, 9-ish, and 12 commit suicide in the homes that they were selling because of financial problems. Really tough. And it's very easy for any of us that were around back then to say, man, you guys got it good. Look at what we had to go through. But I would suspect that there's people in our office, could be people in this room right now that are having it just as tough as I did in 2000. You have buyers, but they can't buy anything. There's people online right now. I have buyers, but they have very minimal down. They keep losing. I'm not making any money. I have a seller, but they keep waiting because they want to find a home first and they're not going to the market. I have all of this. I hear about all these other people doing business. I mean, if we had anything that was great back then, everybody was not doing business. You know, so it was, you were in good company. In fact, that was when I started to, anybody that calls me and here's my annoying voice message every day, it tells you exactly where I'm going to be every day, at what time. I leave a new message every single morning. And I started it back then because I used to get phone calls back then. And if I didn't call somebody back in like 2 or 3 hours, they'd be like, well, I called you. Yeah, I know, get back to you. Well, what were you doing? Like, oh, it's Tuesday, I'm working, I had an appointment. You have an appointment, nobody's selling any real estate. Like literally, everybody just thought I was sitting on my ass all day long. You know, honestly. So I started leaving this message I'll be here then, here then, here then. It was really hard, but this is hard. This is really hard. This is really, really hard. For us to have the success that we've had on our team with our buyer team takes every single day of Dave and I connecting to talk about who's our pipeline. It takes us to get in there and find out where the canceled and expires at that might be working for our clients. Who do we know out there that's on the for sale by owner list that we're finding that might be good for our clients? Which doors are we going to go knock on to see if they want to sell their home? It takes us digging in on that pipeline. Who's your top 3 that could make an offer this week? Those conversations start out often with, I don't have anybody, and they end with 1 or 2 people. We end the week with 1 or 2 purchase agreements every week. We had 7 buyers go under contract last week. 7. I took 4 listings over the last 5 days. No listing, right? I'm just saying, we are diligent. These are not falling out of the sky. We are scratching and clawing. It's hard, but I've got 20 years of it. If you're doing the business for a few years, it's incredibly hard. Don't give up. Keep pouring into yourself. Find other people you trust in the business. Find a venting partner. We talk about accountability partners. Find a venting partner, you know, that you can just yell to, you know. Mine used to be over at, I almost said the name. Big Red Side. Not this guy. I used to smash phones. I used to smash them. That guy in the picture. I used to smash phones, get bits and pieces in my goatee. No, yeah, shards of phones. We had these big expensive phones. They had all sorts of different buttons for different conference calls or whatever. You know, it was like 1972 or something. They were big giant phones. And man, I'd get so mad I would smash the phone. And then I'd be like, that wasn't good. I shouldn't have done that. So I'd unplug it and I'd go find a cube and go take that one. What happened? That wasn't good. That was a slow point. But my point is that this is never going to be easy, this career, this job, but we're compensated extremely well for it. Our clients will pour gratitude on us when we win. And even in their lowest points, if we're doing right by them and we're being a professional group, being a counsel, we'll be the shoulder to cry, and they're going to pour gratitude on us at that point as well. This is a remarkable, rewarding business. You've been given an incredible opportunity. Wish I would have found this place, and this, nobody told me to say that. I wish I would have found this place earlier in my career. I spun my wheels for a long time. And don't get me wrong, you know, I came out of the gate, I sold 24 houses in my first year. All right, 23 buyers, one list. I think my average sale price was $140,000. No joke. And then my second year, I think I sold a little bit less than that. So I was bouncing around, you know, that. Enough to make a living, but it was a hard time too, because I didn't plan for anything, and we had kids that we were having, and, just, young couple being married, there wasn't a lot of income coming in, and then that crash happened, and I didn't plan for it, right? But it stunk, it was hard, but it forced me to pour into this. Use this opportunity. You don't have to go into bankruptcy, you don't have to lose your house, you don't have to contemplate, getting another job. Oh, but we're always doing that. I mean, even when you're successful, we're still contemplating. Be a coach. And everybody is, right? But it doesn't have to be something that would be detrimental. Literally, pour into yourself. Keep doing this. I wish I would have found this place. There's so much accountability. There's so many systems. There's so much positivity here. Where I worked before, everybody was like, "That's mine." Nobody shared any information. I never knew what people made. What are they paying taxes? I don't know how to do that. What do you do? I don't know what I should do. How do you get people? They're like, I just know them. Get out of here. It's different here, and you have a real opportunity to succeed. So, find your people that you trust, join teams that you trust, build your own team, and your team doesn't have to be a traditional team. It can be whatever you want. It can just be a team of your stager, your lender, your title person. Build this, continue to do it. If you fall down, just get up, brush yourself off. You're going to fall down. Everybody does. I still do. And do the best you can. Try to be as nice to us as possible. I do make the point to call every single offer that makes offers on my listings and tell them I do make that point to call them. Every once in a while, if you've received an email from me, it was because I was on vacation or something else was going on, or it was like, but I do make the point to call every single offer. And for the most part, people are pretty gracious and receiving. Every once in a while, they're mad, but that's okay. I don't let it bother me. It is what it is. I get it. But I, try to be nice to us too, because I know even though we seem like we're just pushing everybody around, it's real anxious. I'm real anxious on the other side. So are other people. We're just pretending that we're not. We're playing tough. Yeah. So that's all I have. I would encourage anybody to ask me any further questions about this. It is 2:01. I'm good for time though for the moment. If you guys have any other particular questions, specific questions, any questions about that? Yes.
Just a random curiosity question. Have you seen a lot of offers from like institutional investors?
I personally have not. I've seen them, right? But I personally have not. I'm not sure if that's just my experience or we just don't get as many of them here in this region as other regions of the United States.
It's just not happening here as much.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah. I've never had one accepted here. I never personally have. Yeah.
Are you presenting the offers as they come into the seller? Are you presenting your spreadsheet?
It depends on the seller and it depends on the workload. So often it will be, if it's a realistic multiple bidding situation where there's 4 or 5 offers, 6 offers, it's usually as they come in, they're receiving the offers for review. If we're in that, craziness, 25 offers, I'm not doing that. We're doing it all at once in the spreadsheet. They might get the first one or the second one, and then it's like, look, we're going to table this and we're going to look at it all together. Unless the seller tells me they want to see them, then I have to follow their lead.
And do you have many agents ask you how offers are going to them?
Yeah, and I do have a lot of agents ask, how it's going or how we're going to do that or when you're going to do that. And that's okay. I don't fault anybody for that. I will say it's just funny to me. It's not annoying at all. It's funny to me, like deadline's 4 and it's like 5. Of course, that's just funny. It's a funny text to receive. Like, did you really think I'd have an update at 4:05? That's a weird question. But whatever, it's cool. I just kind of chuckle at it. There's a lot of things in this business I chuckle at. How many times have you ever been with a seller, right? And you're in the negotiation, right? And it's not a multiple bidding situation. It's a real negotiation. Give it to you. And let's say the house is $500,000. And we got the last counter offer came at $487, right? But I know talking to them, we could get them up to $495. I know we could. And they're like, Graham, I don't want to lose this whole thing over 13 grand. I'm like, 2 months ago, you were ready to hire somebody else over 1 point. Like, what are you talking about? You totally chopped me up on the inspection or on the commission. And now you're like, I don't want to lose this for 13,000. We almost lost me for 3, Just funny. I just notice things like that, how people speak about it. But agents too, if the deadline is 4, I'm lucky if I'm sitting down at 4 looking at those offers. I'm probably not sitting down till 4:30 or 5 o'clock to look at those.
Do you communicate with the buyer's agent that offers are due at 4? I'm going to be presenting this evening. You should know by late tonight.
That's my intent on every single multiple bidding situation, regardless of how big they are, or how many offers there are. I'm sure somebody could find a situation I did not fulfill that promise. But I would say the vast majority I do. I'm very specific. Offers are due by 4. We will be reviewing them after 4 o'clock. I will be sending them to the sellers and we'll be talking this evening. My intent is to have an update for you tonight. And I use those words specifically. My intent is to have an update tonight. I did not say answer, I said an update. I'm very specific in that word choice there because I don't know what the sellers are going to do. I know what they told me they intended to do, but I've seen people just pull an audible. I would also say this to any listing agents that are working on it or people that work on listings as well. If you have a multiple bidding situation going on and highest and best is at 6 and you have a date with your spouse at 7, somebody's gonna be upset. It's either your spouse or your son. That's not happening. Yeah, there's no way. So be mindful and when you're calling your deadlines too.
Melanie put a plug in there for the panel that you are going to participate in on Monday. If anybody's interested at the Lake Minnetonka office at 10 a.m., sponsored by Minnesota Title.
What's that one about?
That's how to get the listing.
Yeah, great.
Can I ask a question about a strategy?
Sure.
So I'd like to have your opinion on this. It's something I'm thinking about using on a bid this weekend that goes live tomorrow. This buyers are crazy about it, want to do a walk and talk inspection.
Is it one of my listings?
It is not. But I'm thinking about putting in, a very strong offer saying it will be X amount no matter what, but if you accept by noon tomorrow, then an extra, $5,000 on top of that.
Yeah, I like that strategy. Absolutely.
Great. Not annoying, not going to be like.
Look, if somebody's annoyed by that, that person needs to go back and see rule number 1. No, how could you be annoyed by that? We'll give you more money than you wanted and even more if you talk to us by 12 o'clock tomorrow. That's a great term. It'll just be up to the seller what they want to do and how the agent counsels them. But yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Who's first?
I was just gonna say, how would you treat an offer that if you had a deadline at 6 p.m., then another offer came in at like 9 p.m. and it was way better than the other ones? Would you disqualify that?
If we haven't made a decision on the offers yet, it's absolutely being presented because I'm contractually
What
obligated.
if it were, so I know you said you don't mind escalation clauses, but what if it was something like that where a term and they ignored it and put it in? So it's like kind of anti-competitive.
I still have to present it because I'm contractually obligated to. My calling for a deadline is arbitrary compared to our fiduciary responsibility. I have to show that off to my client. My client is going to instruct me on how they want to, and we owe obedience under the fiduciary. If the client says, yeah, I know I said no arbitration, no escalation, no arbitration. That one's going to arbitration. I know I said no escalation, but yeah, this is a great offer. Let's take it. We're absolutely going to take it. Yep.
How about the deadlines that we have to present by, or let them know by a certain time?
Yep. And if an offer comes in after that, I'm still contractually obligated to share it with my client. Now, if my client's already accepted an offer, I'm still going to share it with my client because I'm contractually obligated to do so because it's being recorded. But no, it really, for real. But it's, we wouldn't be able to take it. We would have already taken it
I'm
off.
saying, they give you an offer that you have to give us an answer by 10 o'clock
Oh,
tonight.
right. Yeah, great question. Thank you. I misunderstood. This is good. So these are challenging, right? Like you receive those and it's a great offer. You're wondering if they're serious. Okay. So on one hand, this is a great offer. We don't want to lose it. I've had some sellers say, my risk tolerance is 0, so let's take it. I've had other, sellers that are total gamblers that are like, let's roll with it. Go for it. I personally feel this might be letting out too much of my strategy. I personally feel that every offer should be countered because if you don't, the buyer's always going to wonder if they pay too much. And we're going to find ourselves, if we hit any bumps in the road, that's going to be there. versus just accepting at face value, you know, and just hoping for the best. I personally believe in negotiations. I don't care what you're negotiating, every offer should be covered. And it doesn't have to be a price counter, but something needs to be covered. On those offers like that, I'll put it to my clients to talk about the pros and cons and let them decide. Sometimes they'll take it, sometimes they won't. I would say in this environment where we're at right now, the vast majority of people that put deadlines on it change their deadline to our deadline. Yep. I would also say that anybody that's making an offer today, again, not everybody, just the majority, that says my offer is done at midnight is not that's. If they really walk, I'm not sure they were serious about that house. That's not how people buy homes. People help buy investment properties. That's not how people buy homes. And some people might, right? There's always gonna be that exception. What happened to me? Great, I get it. But yeah, probably not. They're probably gonna wait. And if we have a bunch of other interest and the seller wants to exhaust it, that's where we're gonna go. But sometimes the seller says, I'm not even concerned about the sunset clause. That's just a great offer. I don't have to show my house all weekend. Let's take it. Yeah, and then we will. And then all those other agents that said they were going to come and see it Saturday, because I told them, no, we're not going to take anything until Sunday for sure. And then we took it. It changed. It changed. Yeah, they all hate me. Yeah, they do.
I've gotten that phone call.
You got that from me
Yeah,
or
like
about
5
me?
years, no, from you, like 5 years ago.
Really?
Yeah,
What did I say?
you were really apologetic. So your clients, you had
Oh,
said.
God, I thought I was complaining about somebody else.
No, you
I was like, I
called and
did that?
said, no,
That doesn't sound like
you had
somebody
called the
else.
deadline, your sellers had called the deadline,
Yeah.
but then
right,
they just got a really good
Right.
offer.
Right. I know. It's
Yeah.
their choice.
Yeah.
It is their
Makes sense.
choice.
Yep.
I will tell you personally, I'd rather have the house open for the weekend so we can hold an open house. Personally, on my team, I'd rather it. My buyer's agents like to be in our open houses and we pull buyers out of every single one. It's completely selfish, but I'd rather have it open. But I'm not going to let that trump my decision for my clients. It's their decision. But if you're asking me what I want that open until Sunday evening so my buyer agents can be there Saturday and Sunday. We can sign up 2 more buyers and maybe another listing because that's what we average on our open house. That's how we do the business we do. So I prefer to be there, quite honestly. Let me rephrase that. I prefer my agents. I'm on my boat. That's totally joking. I'm there with you. I'm there with you. There was another question.
Can I answer a question that I heard earlier and then ask one? So that the
We
answer.
don't know if you're qualified to answer the question, sir, but you can try.
More than 20 years in the business as a loan officer, have been a licensed realtor and a real
Probably
estate,
knows.
and a real estate investor.
Probably knows.
The understanding of the playing field I liked, and that I think is the answer to someone's question, which is once you gain the confidence, get right with yourself, and you gain the confidence, you'll start communicating with your buyers differently. If your buyers are coming in with horrible terms, meaning they have low down payment, they have, whatever, they've got a bad loan situation, they're not going to look good at any offer. It's your job to nicely and politely tell them that and come up with different solutions and adjust their thinking. They don't get to go into the house day one and make offers on that house. If they really want to be successful, they have to look at the houses that are overpriced that have been on the market 90 to 120 days. And if they do that, they'll be happy. They'll actually buy a house rather than continuing to be a renter, and you'll get a commission too.
So
Right.
there was a lot of great advice he just gave there. First thing I heard you say, you said the word twice. Did anybody hear the word I'm thinking of? You have to have what with your clients? It starts with a C. Confidence. When you have that confidence with your clients, or when you get right with yourself, you have that confidence with your clients. You speak in a confident manner. Chances are you're speaking to the other agents in a confident manner. Chances are that people are going to respond to you. There was something that somebody once told me that when you present material in a confident manner, 90% of the time people believe you, right? Yeah, it's actually like 65%. So the idea is that when you do that, you are going to have a much better opportunity to have people follow along in a conversation with you versus like, what is he telling you? The other thing you talked about, which I think is great, for folks that have, if we want to talk about it's not necessarily winning with a listing agent, but it's winning for your client. You've got a client with a very small down payment, a very challenging price range. Why are you competing with the houses that are one day on the market? And I get it. Your client's asking you to bring them there and you have to. But why aren't you bringing them other opportunities? Why aren't you going and looking what's on the market 90 days? Why aren't you going and look at what canceled and didn't come back? Why aren't you going and doing that? Because they're gonna have a much better opportunity to secure that than compete on day one. Day one is probably not for them. I remember we used to have that conversation with folks that, back in the day, again, getting old, back when I used to do this. Yeah.
Why did I?
Right, Trish? You know how it is.
Back in the day, I was building shopping. malls.
I just know that the two of you were around in the real estate business back then, so I'm looking in this general direction. I don't know about any. We used to see foreclosed properties that were put on the market for $70,000, $60,000, $80,000, and you'd get a first-time home buyer and say, hey, I want to see it. I've got 3.5% down FHA, love to see it, at 5% down conventional. That property is a cash only. That's not for you. And it wasn't, seriously. You have $80,000 in cash. No, I don't. Well, then that's not for you. Because nobody will finance that. And it was hard for them to understand that. But what do you mean? The bank owns it. Yeah, they won't even finance their own property. That's how bad. Well, it's just some holes in the wall and some broken windows and it's missing a furnace. I know, but that needs to be there on the date of closing to get the financing. The only way to get around that is you need $80,000 in cash. Do you have that? No, so stop asking me about the $80,000 property that's not for you. The one day one is probably not for your buyer. They can't win in multiple bids.
I think it's your job to have tough conversations, right?
Totally.
They don't know what they don't know. It's our job as an industry to teach them that.
How about
If you
this?
do that, you'll make a lot of money, believe me.
Right there. How about this? How many people hold a buyer consultation? Okay. How many people do it in person? Good, good, awesome. Even if you don't, you can still do this. How many people have ever talked about the neighborhoods that they're looking to buy in, the price range they're looking to buy in, and have pulled up an active real-time MLS search of the average sale price for that neighborhood? And what happens when they said, I'm looking to spend $300,000 and I want to be here, I want to be there, I want to be there? Great, that's awesome. Well, 4 bedrooms? Yes. 3-car attached garage, no problem. Yep, got it. Okay, so the average price is $750,000. You said, how much? $325,000. So you're really below the average of what sells there. Houses that are priced at $325,000 in that neighborhood, what condition? Correct. Are you looking for a fixer-upper? No, I need it move-in ready. And then you find out, well, actually, my budget's $800,000. Or I can actually look over here and over there and over there. Right? So having that conversation up front, like you're talking about, maybe talking about these properties that were on the market for one day got 10 offers and on average sold for 10 or 15% higher. If we're looking at a property that's listed at 300, your cap is 300, can you get money from maybe a relative, a gift? If you have a 401k you could borrow from for another 30, 40, or 50,000. No? So maybe we should look over here. Or maybe we should look down here. Or maybe we should really concentrate. A lot of my clients have had a lot of success and secured great values when they're concentrating on property. One beautiful thing about this market, I will say, is that it is remarkably apparent what the problem is after about 14 to 17 to 21 days. And it's the price. Every time. Every time. Doesn't take long to figure it out. Might take long for the seller to figure it out, but it doesn't take long for the market to figure it out. When houses start to get passed over, they're not even being looked at anymore. They're not. They're just not. And on average, if the listing agent's doing their job, and we can't assume that, if the listing agent's doing their job, they're having a conversation about a price adjustment. What do you think the minimum price adjustment is before you even make a dent and change it? What would you say? 10%?
I was gonna say 20 grand, but
20 grand? Depends on the price, right?
yeah, it does.
How about percentage wise? 10? 10%, this is what I say. I say that typically speaking, we don't even see anything change unless you do a minimum of 5%. So you could do an average price adjustment of 5% or a drastic price adjustment of 10%. At 10%, I think we're packing your bags and getting in the truck. If I didn't get multiple bids and bid it back up, what are you comfortable with? Well, I'll take the 5%. Great. I don't want it less than that. 5%, in my opinion, is the minimum you could do before you open it up to another demographic. 425 to 399. It's 5.25, whatever, it's 5. That opens it up to everybody looking up for 400. It just shifts, right? 300 to 285. In which case I talked to them about the power of 275, and price blocking and all sorts of things. My point in bringing that up is, if the agent's doing their job, they're already talking to that client about making a price adjustment of probably 5 to 10%. If they don't know how to do their job, they're talking about $1,000 or $2,000 price adjustments, which will have zero effect, or they're saying, we really don't know what's happening until we've been on the market 60 days. That's ridiculous in this market. If they're doing their job, those conversations have already happened. Your offer might just be well received. They might have been thinking about doing a 10% price adjustment, and you gave an offer 5% below their current asking price. They might view that as a win. You don't know until you try. And you might get an agent again that, says, how dare you bring me this offer? Don't you know what kind of market we're in? I do. Been on the market. Yep. Have that conversation. But I'm glad you brought all that up. That's great. Trish, did you have a question? Thought you did. That old brain.
I did have a question too. I'm curious about lender calls and how effective they are and what you look for in those, like what's successful in those, right? Or what
Yeah, I mean,
what makes for a good one.
It's better to have the lender call than not have a lender call. I'll put it that way. If the person is working with a reputable lending brokerage, kind of already assuming, okay, but I like the lender call. If it's a brokerage I've never heard of before, I love the lender call. That lender call is almost never coming from any of the online lenders.
Sure. Yeah, right.
Which I don't like to see anyway. Those scare me from past experience. Those scare me. And I won't even name the names, but I will just say there's a few that have been consistent about not closing on time. Yeah. So when I see that, I'm like, oh, geez, that's a problem. Or that could be a problem. And I will convey that message. It's a tough one too. Sometimes we have clients. We have one right now that shows this one particular lender I'm thinking of. And we've asked them, would you consider another, second opinion? And they're like, nope, this is the one.
Have they lost on offers yet?
Well, yeah, but they're contingent right now. We got them accepted. I'm afraid it's not going to close that time because I've had this happen multiple times with this lender, both on the buy side and receiving offers on them. Yeah, over many years, not a new one. Yep. Anyone else? Anybody online? Everybody's hanging around. It's good. We think though, we can't see.
Ask the nugget, right?
Yes.
What about buyers offering to pay the seller's cost?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, again, it's being,
Missing, but
I do too.
or it's like a higher price.
Well, not necessarily, no. I really don't think there's many people that are misunderstood about net and gross. I don't. There might be somebody. I don't think it's many. And it is absolutely coming into play in the conversation. There's no question about it. And quite honestly, I like it too because less appraisal,
Right.
There's a lot of things happening there. But again, net is going to come down to net, net. And that might be what gets the net in the right place. I'll tell you what, if the two nets were the same or very similar, and you had those terms you just mentioned, and if they couldn't hear, you're paying seller closing costs or portion of seller closing costs. I mean, that'd be a pretty compelling offer that I would be presenting to my clients, and I'd be explaining it as such and presenting it in that way. So to me, that would be a really, really good term. Now, if something else blew it out of the water with net, it's a great idea. I had somebody offer to deliver a box of particular company's donuts upon a successful closing. I just thought that was kind of cool. I don't know, they didn't win, but it was a great offer. They just, the offer was competitive, but I just thought that was funny. I haven't seen anybody do things like that. I think one time we had a client that worked for Surly at the time, and they offered so many cases of Surly, with the, so things like that are kind of cheeky and fun.
I had a buyer who was an author, so I delivered books
Hey,
first.
yeah, that's cool. That's awesome.
Good offer too.
Whatever you can do, right? I think at the end of the day, though, we know it, it's net and strength of offer. Anybody else?
Question in the chat there. It says, if you reach out about a canceled listing, do you approach the former listing agent or go directly to the seller? You're door knocking for your buyers on a canceled.
Oh, if the property is canceled, we're going directly to the seller. Unless we can't get a hold of the seller, then we're going to the agent. But we would like to take that and bring them into the fold on both sides. Through a one-time showing agreement or a full representation. So obviously the one-time showing agreement is not representation, but we either do that or it's a good opportunity to gross up commission too on the one-time showing. You're typically gonna collect better than 2.7% if you do it right.
Graham.
Welcome.
Do you need to-